Friends, this presentation is about managerial ideologies and fashion. Both the terms are familiar to sociologists, and I'm using them in simple terms like managerial ideologies are the ideas about management, how to manage an organization, and how to take work from the workers. There have been several changes in ideas about management. I will talk about them. And the term fashion will be used for ideas about management which are changing and which are responding to forces of our times, globalization, political changes, socio-economic changes, and so on. Let me share my slides and the content of this presentation is major managerial ideologies and fashions, scientific management, Fordism, Taylorism, all of you are familiar with them, human relations school, theory X and theory Y. I will also add contingency theory and theory Z, path goal theory, Maslow's need hierarchy. Everybody knows about Maslow's need hierarchy. But I will add another dimension of it, theory B, and I will talk about globalization, postmodernization, and diversity management theories, a little bit about workplace spirituality and corporate Rishi model, which is given by Subhash Sharma and some other Indian spiritualists. There are resources for these slides. These are the major resources. I have gone through a lot of literature to prepare this lecture, and for you people to understand the slides, it would suffice if you read some of them. The idea of ideology and fashion is taken from Tamar's paper, From Management Ideology to Management Fashion, a comparative analysis of two key concepts in the sociology of management knowledge. And this was published in International Studies of Management and Organization in volume 38, number 1 in 2008. And McGregor, Maslow, you know about them, and in some other context, you must have come across ideas of these people. I will go slightly beyond that. And these are other resources. And for postmodernism, like Puri, and for postmodern management, Jackson Norman, and reading of some of these material from books and net would be quite useful. Now, Tamar Parush uses the term ideologies and fashions. What are ideologies? So let me first classify that in my presentation, what are ideologies and what are fashions. Ideologies are Marxist and structural functional views of management. I am combining both of them in one, that Marxist ideology and structural functional views of management, combining Bendix, Marx, Mannheim, and Geertz. Friends, at one time, mostly in the first part of the 20th century, a movement started that work must be scientifically studied. Actually, the influence of science was so rampant that people were trying to develop scientific theories of everything. Karl Marx, Comte in sociology, and Freud in psychoanalysis. All these people were trying to use the concepts of science and methodologies of science and trying to develop theories which could be universalized and which could be of use to people in all contexts and all time. They believed so. So scientific management Fordism, Taylorism, quality circle, total quality management, business process reengineering, human relations school of Elton Mayo and others, theory X and theory Y, contingency theory, path goal theory, Maslow need hierarchy as part of positive psychology. I will talk about theory B. These are all part of ideologies in my classification. And in my classification, fashions refer to transitory beliefs disseminated by fashion setters, mostly of recent origin, and they refer to developments of 1990s and later. Diversity management is one such fashion, postmodern management is another fashion, workplace spirituality, corporate rishi model by Subhash Sharma and many Indian spiritualists. There are lots of videos from which you can learn about indigenous model of management, spiritual management, and so on. And these videos you can easily find on the site of Ahmedabad Management Association. I have myself used a number of videos from this site. The classification of Mannheim was very clear. Ideologies on the part of the elite class or the capitalists or the ruling classes, dominant classes, and utopias on the part of working classes or struggling people or proletariats, lower classes. Now, in the writings of Geertz, you find that there is no privileged position to voice the criticism. And the two terms, therefore, can be used interchangeably. And I will use the term ideology and fashion sometime interchangeably, though broadly speaking, the standard ideas which you find in the textbooks, standard textbooks, are referred to as ideologies, and the recent changes in them are referred to as transitory fashion. Now, this the first and major ideology in management was developed by Fordism and Taylorism. They assume that human labor can be analyzed as material. Workers are guided by strong survival needs. Workers would avoid work if they can. Taylor's concept of soldiering. Soldiering means that workers want to avoid work. If they can manage without working, they would not like to work. If you give them opportunity to participate, they will start interfering in all decisions, even in those which are not of their concerns. And therefore, it is better for management to plan for their work without consulting them, strategize work for them, and participation of workers is not important. For maximum productivity, their wages must correspond to the unit of contribution made by them. For the simple reason, if there is correspondence like this, they will produce more unit of work so that they can get more money. From implementation of scientific management, both factory and workers gain. This was the belief of the early management theories that because this ideology created a rift between industrialists and workers said that the scientific management will lead to unemployment. But and Taylor and Ford, they argued that no, if productivity increases, then the gains can be shared with the workers also, and unemployment and will be less, and the wages of workers will be more. McGregor, many people talk about McGregor's theory of X and Y. I will mention this theory in detail because that is important for me to build my idea of theory Z. Managers find it easy to blame the workers for their inefficiency. McGregor's idea was that managers find it easy to blame the workers for their inefficiency. Managers are less concerned about self-improvement and reflection among them. They practice a combination of theory X and theory Y. Some managers are strong at theory X, some managers are strong at theory Y. What in fact is needed is the integration of organizational and individual needs rather than ruling dictatorship, my term for managers. What is theory X? There are three assumptions of theory X. One, an average man has a dislike of work. I have taken all these ideas from McGregor, and sometimes I am directly quoting McGregor. An average man has a dislike of work. Most people require coercion, control, direction, and threat of punishment to make them work for the attainment of organizational goals. And third, that average man prefers to avoid responsibility, has little ambition, and above all wants security. So people are not interested in work, they are interested only in their own security and material gain. There are many managers who work with this assumption, and they want to develop such strategies of work so that these workers who do not want to work actually, they are interested only in their own selfish interests, can be made to work. Theory Y has 6 assumptions. Some managers are strong at theory Y, and they use these assumptions that expenditure of physical and so theory X and theory Y are just opposite of each other. And it's difficult for us to say which theory is correct. They are like paradigms, that some managers use paradigm X, some managers use paradigm Y, and there is a need for integrating them. This is what McGregor wanted to say. What is theory Y? That expenditure of physical and mental effort is as natural as rest or play. This theory Y displays humans in a positive image. So, and not people who are interested only in their material or physical needs and who want to avoid work. Second, external controls are not essential. People can exercise self-direction and self-control. Commitment is a function of rewards for achievement. Under proper conditions, an average human being can learn to accept and even seek responsibility. So people want responsibility. They accept responsibility, they seek responsibility. Fifth, imagination, ingenuity, and creativity in solving organizational problems are widely distributed in the population. That means they are not confined only to managers, they are widely distributed in the population. Even workers have them. Workers are creative, and they show imagination, ingenuity, they are ready to accept responsibility, and they seek responsibility. This is another assumption, or which is called theory Y. And sixth assumption of theory Y is that in modern industrial life, potentiality of human beings are only partly utilized. There is a quote from McGregor directly. I have not changed a single word in this. Theory X offers management an easy rationalization for ineffective organizational performance. It is due to the nature of the human resources with which we must work. Theory Y, on the other hand, places the problems squarely in the lap of management. If employees are lazy, indifferent, unwilling to take responsibility, intransigent, uncreative, uncooperative, theory Y implies that the causes lie in management's methods of organization and control. So McGregor blames managers if the organizational output and control are poor. McGregor identified a number of practices on the basis of theory Y: participative, consultative, delegation, job enlargement, performance appraisal, facilitating achievements, and having high expectations from subordinates, not having low expectations from subordinates that they will not work, or the issue of soldiering, as mentioned earlier, but that the workers are willing to work, provided you delegate authority to them, you consult them, and you give them more role, and you facilitate their achievements. Facilitation is important. Now, theory Z is a new concept. Today, most management theorists will talk about theory Z. But theory Z, I asked myself, what is theory Z? I read literature on this, and I find that theory Z is not a single theory like theory X or theory Y. It refers to all ideas which go beyond theory X and Y. For example, William Auchie's theory of loyalty, create stable employment, high productivity, high employee morale and satisfaction, Japanese theory, integration of various components of work processes and ideas. X, Y requires change when work shifts from manufacturing to knowledge. In knowledge sector, in health, insurance, education, it's difficult to visualize whether theory X or theory Y will work. Perhaps an integration of them will work. That integration would be theory Z. Effective leadership is more important than today in the literature on leadership. The concept of effective leadership has found a more important place than the theory X and the theory Y. XY is not fixed. Management training programs can change the mindset. That theory Z assumes that the assumptions about workers which theory X and theory Y make are not fixed. The workers' minds, their mental model, their mental states, their motivations are not fixed. Through training programs, suitably developed training programs, their mindset can be changed. Then comes Maslow's need hierarchy and behavioral school, and further developments in Maslow's theory B, cognition, and diversity management. All these things can be made part of theory Z or of managerial fashion. Maslow has a rampant influence on psychology of motivation. He gives what is called positive psychology, a positive evaluation of man. He provides evaluative cognition. First, 4 of the needs according, that the needs are basic: safety, security, social, self-esteem and ego, and self-actualization. First 4 of them are part of evaluative cognition, and the last need, self-actualization, is part of what he calls theory B, and he propagates theory B. He first gave the theory Z in response to McGregor's theory X and Y. Before William Auchie's theory Z, many people are unaware of this fact. So to me, Maslow is the founder of theory Z. And the question was how American business can meet the Japanese challenge. Maslow accorded due importance to social conditions of freedom, transparency, justice, etc. Now, these B values, why I say that this is closely linked with modern fashions. These B values, if you look at them, and the values are truth, goodness, beauty, wholeness or integration, holistic understanding, aliveness, processes, uniqueness, and perfection. To me, they are very similar to values of Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Truth can directly be translated into Satyam, goodness into Shivam, and beauty into Sundaram. And wholeness means holistic theory. A sociologist said that Indian theory of social organization was holistic and integrated, and it was hierarchical. Dumo was his name, and wholeness of Maslow in his B theory, B values, is very similar to that cosmic, hierarchical, value-based managerial approach. And uniqueness and perfection. Everybody strives for perfection. Completion, justice, simplicity. That these are the values we all aspire for. Even ordinary workers, or whom we call proletariats or manual workers, aspire for this. So according to theory Z, if you provide more of them to workers, or to volunteers, or to all those whom the term workman will apply, they will work happily, more productively, and the outcome of the organization will be more playfulness, fun. Work must become fun, and not a burden, not a tax, but full of joy, amusement, humor, exuberance, and effortlessness. Work should be effortless, spontaneous, and self-sufficiency means autonomy, independence, not needing other means not needing direction from managers, and self-determining. You just give them the task and let them structure the task in their own manner, and they will happily do this. They will accept responsibility, they will happily do this, and then the work becomes effortless. If you strategize, if you structure the work too much, then work becomes a burden, because then there is a psychological gap, and the workers may find the work monotonous, and it becomes therefore alienating. And there is a new approach of fit between organization and organizational characteristics, contingency theory. For a long time, theories of leadership talked about leadership, physical characteristics of leaders, qualities, psychological traits, behavior, and so on. And gradually, some people gave importance to task also, to organize. Some people realize that actually no theory works in all circumstances. So this idea that theories work in a context, and what theory will work depends on the social context, and therefore theories of leadership must be made contextual, is the idea of contingency theory, that leadership style or effectiveness depends on the context. And this theory of motivation and organization must take into account all four factors: task, organization, people, and interaction between situation, which may be favorable or unfavorable, and leadership style, which may be task oriented or people oriented. So the idea behind contingency theory was this: no theory is universally applicable. Some theories of leadership will work in one situation, other theories may work better in other situations. These days there is also a talk of path goal theory, which talks about three things: employee characteristics, task and environment, and path goal leadership. Characteristics include experience, ability, and locus of control, a psychological term. External locus of control, there are two types of locus of control, external and internal. There are some people who attribute their successes and failures to external factors, God, fate, political conditions, etc. They are called people having external locus of control. And those who attribute their successes and failures to themselves, they are called having internal locus of control. Task and environment, design of task, formal authority system, and work group, and leadership include these. In the next slide, I will explain these directive supported styles more. This is based on Bloom's theory. Directive leadership, if the task is ambiguous, works better. task is ambiguous, so it has to be explained by the managers, and directive leadership works better. Supportive leadership to create confidence among subordinates that they can do it. When the workers require confidence, they lack in confidence, then supportive leadership. And participative leadership to improve the reward system if the rewards are perceived to be inappropriate. And achievement, so participative leadership can explain what the reward systems are and why they are, and participation itself can substitute for reward. And then achievement oriented leadership if the task is standardized and done and keep the goals high. There is an interesting term, leadership substitutes. These substitutes are contingencies as substitutes for leadership style. Condition, that is conditions in which effective leadership is not so much a need. Professional workforce. If the workforce is professional, lawyers, doctors, they do not need to be directed. They do not need to be guided by any management. They do not need a task-oriented leadership. Co-workers can direct the new employees. Collegial model of decision making and directing among judges and university professors works very well. And self-management. Leadership substitutes include all these terms. Conditions, professional workforce, task-oriented leaders, co-workers directing other employees, collegial model, and self-management. Another approach to leadership is transactional or transformational leadership. And let me spend a minute on this. That transactional leaders maintain the status quo. Transformational leaders are catalysts for change. And while transactional leaders achieve the current objectives, transformational leaders are the agents of organization change. They not only achieve organization objectives, but they can lead to change in the organization, in the system, in the culture, in the environment, in interaction with other organizations, and so on. So transactional leaders do not individualize the needs of the employee, while the transformational leaders do, and present greater challenges before those who have potential to achieve higher. The transformational leaders serve the best interests of the followers. They train them, they give them education, empower them, get feedback, and work in the interest of their worker. Empowering them help the organization. The transformational leaders change the context, strategies, and culture. There is also a psychodynamic theory in literature which uses Freudian concept of id, ego, superego. It's a very complex theory. Views people as complex, unique, and paradoxical, combines rational with irrational, following the Freudian lines, rational with irrational, anxiety, depression, stresses, and the irrational part we have a lot of irrational part in ourselves, while the other theories, scientific theories, give more importance to mind and the rational part and utilitarian part. This theory combines rational with the irrational emotions. Consider the emotional and psychological realm of the organization life. Provides a clinical paradigm, logical explanation, much of which is unconscious. Freud talks of conscious as well as unconscious, regulations and expressions of emotions, and earlier inter and intrapersonal processes. It may also be said here that according to theory, 3 harmful strategies need to be avoided: helplessness, neediness, fear of the outside world, flight, fight. Means in Hindi, I would translate this into JBP Sinha's concept of apna paraya, and pairing with the powerful subordinate. Some people, some managers try to maintain good relations with powerful subordinates or subordinates who are seen to be powerful, This strategy does not work, as this may lead to ganging up by others against the leader. Also, better that managers do not join workers of their identity, caste, or region, or linguistic group. They must maintain equal distance from all the workers or people belonging to all identities. Now we enter the post-industrial framework. The term post-industrial was used by Alan Turing first time, and it was popularized by Daniel Bells in his famous book, The Coming of Post-Industrial Society. There is a change from production of goods to services and ideas. Knowledge becomes a human capital now, and there is growing importance of professionals, experts, IT workers, and declining importance of manual workers. Behavioral economics, cybernetic, game theory, information theory, stochastic modeling, and probabilistic processes are all the developments of the second part of the last century. And broadly speaking, they all can be placed in the category of postmodern response to management. Aldrich Beck's concept of rich society is another powerful concept in fashion these days, and fashionable managers use this term and approach of Aldrich Beck. There is a fine-grained division of labor. The reason is that it's not a simple division of labor; it's fine-grained division of labor. Hyper differentiation, to use a term from postmodern theory. We are dealing with not division of labor, but hyper division of labor, and it brings the different and antagonistic things together. So de-differentiation in the context of hyper differentiation, and fall through the sieve of over specialization. Risk are new. What is risk in risk society? What is risk? Risk is not simply hazard. Risks are dealing with the consequences of our past decisions. So evaluation of past decisions which create new hazards and new probabilities of various types of hazards. The term risk is used for that. Everything has a risk. Whatever action we'll take today will produce some new risk. And re-networking of specialists is a new idea in fashion. Implication of risk are new issues which have not been theorized so far. How does one man company, a startup work? There is very little work on one-man companies or startups. How can startups be made more successful? We require new methods and approaches to the old problem. For example, experimental methods for the theorization of poverty, which focus on methodologies and explanation of poverty. Or this gives more importance to methodologies, experimentation, evidence, how to collect evidence on what we say. Utterances are less important. Methodologies and methods of creating evidence becomes more important. And apocalyptic thoughts, end of the world theories, and generalized pessimism characterize postmodern society. So this postmodern society produces some new concepts, and I use the term fashion for them: dynamic management, complexity management. More of this we will explore in the last lecture. Discourses, epistemes, epistemes on knowledge frameworks or paradigms or ways of thinking or perspectives. Can you combine spirituality with management? Is a question that many Indian management scholars are asking. And one of them is Subhash Sharma. He was director. He is director of Indian Business Academy, Bangalore. Did his PhD from University of Southern California, Los Angeles. His MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and he was founding faculty of IRMA. He is a management guru and writer of so many books. and he gives the concept of corporate Rishi model. Now, you can now contrast this concept with other concepts. And the other concepts are Fordism, Taylorism, scientific management, Elton Mayo's human relations school, Frederick uh, uh, the school of motivators and hygiene, etc., etc., theory X, theory Y, they all belong to one set of ideas. And another set of idea which comes from indigenization of knowledge framework in management. And you can find lots of videos on this on the site of Ahmedabad Management Association, which are made by spiritual gurus and also by senior, very senior managers associated with leading industrial companies of India. They provide another way of thinking, and they say that combining management with spirituality is useful. And Subhash Sharma in this context gives the model of corporate Rishi leadership. Or theory K, his theory is theory K. He says that theory K combines theory X, theory Y, as well as theory Z. So you can combine theory X, workers are not interested in work. Theory Y, workers are interested, they accept and seek responsibility. And theory Z, Maslow's positive psychology theory of Satyam Shivam Sundaram, or truth and beauty and welfare. And he also he first used the equation K equal to X plus Y plus Z, and then change it to X raised to power A, Y raised to power B, Z raised to power C, implying something like contingency theory, that in different situations you may have a different combinations of X, Y, and Z. Sometimes you give more importance to X, sometimes to B, sometimes to X, sometimes to Y, sometimes to Z, and the final product is the multiplicative function of power and multiplicative function of X, Y, Z. And wherein A, B, and C indicate the intensity of a particular style, and theory K suggests the following relationship between the A is less than B is less than C. That means Subhash Sharma gives more importance to Maslow's positive psychology as compared to theory Y, and he gives more importance to theory Y than to theory X. Days of theory X have gone. In the new world, there is more of participation, integration, combination, holism, and workers are motivated through motivators other than financial rewards and some kind of spirituality. Here the term K needs to be explained because Subhas defined the term K in a slightly different manner. For him, K stands for 5 things. Karta. Karta is not in the sense of karta of a household, but karta in the sense of agent, action performer, decision maker. Karma, action. Kutumb, organization as a family. And K for Karuna means compassion or human touch. And K for Kesari, sacrifice and self-discipline. That the mod to be effective, at least in Indian conditions. Yes, I can say this, that at least in Indian conditions, this may work in European or American condition or may not work, but many reformers, many spiritual gurus, many management experts are saying that in the Indian condition, this Rishi model is likely to work better than the scientific model. The extended version of theory K integrates several Indian models discussed earlier. In this version, this is a quote from Subhash Sharma: the decision maker or karta performs karma with a human touch rooted in sacrifice and self-discipline. Sacrifice and self-discipline are great values of India. For the welfare of the organization is like a kutum, a family, a concept which seems to be influenced by Japanese system of management. We may indicate that the meaning of karta in our model refers to the person performing an action and not the traditional meaning of karta of a joint family. Karta simply means decision maker who could be male or female. The term karta can be used for both males and females. It may be observed that this 5K model of management is based on a holistic approach wherein the organization is viewed as an extended family. Another theory in fashion is from Uday Parikh, who gives some other new concept: role efficacy, extension motivation, octapace, combining openness, collaboration, trust, authenticity, proactivity, autonomy, confrontation, experimentation. You see a lot of similarity between these concepts and Subhash Sharma. And development motivation, which according to Uday Parikh is defined as achievement motivation. Achievement motivation term was given by McClelland long back, and for Uday Parikh it is achievement motivation multiplied by extension motivation minus dependence motivation. Three things are included. Now, I would like to end this presentation by a pure spiritual kind of quote. This is from a Buddhist book. To quote from Sangha Rakshita, a Buddhist book, it is obvious that corresponding to the term man or Pudgal, or to such terms as being, Sattva, living being, Jiva, and self, Atman, there exists no unchanging substantial entity, but only an ever-changing stream of physical and psychical, including mental and spiritual events, outside which no such entity can be discerned. Hence, there can be no such thing either as human nature in the sense of a fixed and determinate quality or condition holding good of such an entity at all times and places and under all possible circumstances. Human nature is in reality a no nature, though capable of unspeakable wickedness, man is not. For that reason, essentially and by very definition, a miserable sinner, as some believe, neither is he in reality a stainless, immortal spirit, as supposed by others. Man is in fact indefinable. Buddhism believes in a theory that there is no permanence in Pratitya Samutpad, and that there is no Atman means there is nothing. Everything keeps on changing. Everything keeps on converting from one thing to another. And in this situation of Anath, and everything is parivartanshil and Anath. So in that situation, no theory for all organizations or all human beings can ever be made. So theories depend on the context. So what it means, it gives importance to thinking collectively and in a spiritual framework, in the interest of all, managers as well as workers. So today's manager is a partner. These spiritual theories will say that managers should be partner and benefits of the organization. I'm aware of an industry in Karnataka which is very, very successful and which gives lot of a significant proportion of the profit. It exports to China, and it every year it shares a significant proportion of the profits with the workers. It also has a meditation center where workers come, spend some time in meditation and then work. Everybody is happy. Workers are happy because workers themselves are gaining from the work, and the whole atmosphere is so spiritual. So the organization is prospering very fast. So we are moving away from scientific management to post-scientific and spiritual integrated holistic management. We do not know the future of such theories. And so these are some of the implications of managerial sociology, that there is no fixed answer for all types of organization. Maybe what Subhash Sharma is saying, maybe what Uday Parikh is saying, maybe what other spiritualists are saying may not make sense tomorrow. Tomorrow is in postmodern situation, in post-change situation, we do not know whether these theories will work for all time. Actually, any claim for any theory which will work for all times is not the right thing. So no fixed answer, complex technology and multitasking, need for handling diverse types of scientific and human skills, complex factors inside and outside the organization, combining production with human values. This human values is very important. All spiritual theories, all theories in fashion today, at least in our country, talk of human values. And anchoring of approaches to resilient organizations in the culture. Thank you. In the next lecture, we will explore sociological concepts of culture, values, norms, class, gender, etc. So friends, this is what I wanted to say today. What we have learned is that if the theory, broadly speaking, you can divide managerial theories into three groups. Theories developed in the first half of the 20th century. I'm using the term ideology for them because they give more importance to management, that management understands things better, and management must strategize work of the workers, because workers may want to avoid work. They are interested only in material gains, in rewards, and if they can, they will avoid the work. So soldiering it, using a traditional scientific concept of soldiering, that workers want to avoid work. That was gradually changed in the later part. Of course, in the first half of the 20th century itself, in 30s, 40s, other theories came. And Friedrich Herzberg, Elton Mayo, who gave more importance to other things, social aspects, group aspects of work, group dynamics, social relations, conditions of work, and appreciation, and promotions, recognition, means factors other than material rewards or salaries or wages. And now, then there is postmodern approach. In the second part of the 20th century, you have operations research, highly mathematical or econometric theories of management, models, probability-based models. The situation is such that to publish in a management journal today, it will be necessary, or almost necessary, to use linear programming, queuing theory, Poisson model, negative binomial model, and so on. Highly mathematical, calculus, differential, integral, and latest developments in Boolean algebra and things like that. Unless you show that you are a great mathematician, it will be difficult for you to propound a theory. But recently, in our country, and I may say more so in 21st century, there is a shift towards integrating management ideas or management theories with values, human values, and participation, sharing in rewards, creating a more spiritual climate, I have done some work on spiritual organization and spirituality among individuals at workplace, and how they connect with the output. There is no time to discuss all that, but combination of management and spirituality. So I gave you the example of Subhash Sharma. This is not the necessarily the best example of what is in fashion, but people are trying different ideas, and time will tell which ideas will prove to be better. But certainly we live among uncertainties, complexities, and the end of the world ideas, and new approaches, new optimism, and new enthusiasm, new agency, and new participation, new intersubjective understanding of the world is required. Thank you very much. This is all I wanted to say on the issue of ideology and fashion.